Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we are here for race... that's not gonna put... Race 22 of the ARC Formula 1 season. It's the Brazilian Grand Prix, and from what I heard earlier, it seems that the championship might end up being decided here, based on how this Grand Prix goes for Lee Kelly in the Alfa Romeo. I think he can clinch if he scores, like, top 5 or something. We're trying to have 11 cars. It wouldn't be too much of a stretch to say he'll probably do that, unless he crashes his car. Not to speak anything into action, but to this point, Lee Kelly runs a 19.7, absolutely blazing pace. Not really. This PA guy does not stop talking. Interesting. Nathan Carr has just been disqualified for parking like several yards off the track. I don't really feel like he was in a dangerous location, but here we are, I guess. And we're with Dylan Van Alsem as he begins his first qualifying lap. He's on the mediums, but as I understand it, that's not exactly the ideal strategy. We do have 12 cars now. Connor Hannock has joined reserving for Williams. Current pole time, because I didn't really bring it up, the stream got off to a bit of a delayed start because my PlayStation had a bit of a problem beginning the stream. I attempted to, begin the broadcast and my PlayStation just had an error. So that was fantastic. But also has kind of missed the last braking zone a little bit there. Regardless, we'll see what he ends up producing for a lap time. It's going to be a 1:08.1, so I mean, not technically bottom of the timesheets, but at the same time, I'd be surprised if Lee Kelly doesn't improve on that 19.7 at least a bit. Maybe mess around and find like 12 seconds. Or so. Yeah, because of those technical difficulties, the first initial lap times were not on the stream. The Cameron Dowds, as you can obviously see, ran the fastest one with a 1:06.1. I fully expect to be dipping into the 1:05s before the end of the qualifying session, though, so that's just a bit of a taste, I suppose. Bit of a slide for Kelly through, I think it's turn 6. An overcorrection there could probably end your race pretty easily, so I'm going to get your suspension in order. I want to make sure you get your suspension in order before trying to take that corner. Yep, there it is. Cameron Dowds is now in the 1:05s with a 1:05.97. Somebody that I do not know has just joined. No idea who that person was, and Lee Kelly runs a 1:06 flat. So yeah, I'd say he improved. He almost got to pole from his 1:19. On board with Connor Sexual as he makes his second lap. I may have totally missed the AF2 race earlier, so I have no idea of anything that may have happened during it. I assume Sexual was there, but that's about the most I could probably tell you. I can't exactly ask because I'm in the, I'm in the live stream. So whoever this your cousin's Jordan's person is, I've never met them in my life. That's, I guess, Francis Ferrand's teammate on the McLaren, I guess. Apparently I'm not the only person asking who he is. Somebody in the Arc Discord is asking the same question. I'm lost. Did AJ screw up and make it a public session? That would be disappointing, but not surprising. I'll be the first to admit. I'll just refer to him as the McLaren driver, because I do not know his actual name. Oh, there's Kyler Boggs making his late appearance as well. The thing is with all the name changes that have been going around, I don't know if this is, if this is just somebody with a changed username, or if this is just some random that Francis invited on a whim. But either way, who's to say that they might not actually be competitive? Liam Carrick has left the session. He hasn't even run a lap yet, so that's... I would call that dangerous territory. I should probably focus on somebody I actually know. I think Connor Hannick's run an in-lap. Connor Setchell has run 6 laps on these tires. That's a new one. He's probably still faster at this track than I'll ever be, even with the 6-lap old soft tires. There's Kyler in the Aston Martin. Try to spare the braking markers. Oh my word. I just said oh my lord. It's like oh my lord and oh my word put together. I know what I'm talking about. He finally decides maybe I should put on some new tires and pits. Treelor is on his next lap. And he's now off of it as he finds a spin in turn 6. At the very least, he didn't overcorrect it. There's plenty of space down there. The second McLaren driver was right behind... No, he's right ahead of. Francis Ferrand is right behind that Red Bull. I almost said Aston Martin. And he will just about get out of the way of the McLaren. We'll see who this other person does. Oh, it's invalid. Never mind. We'll see what Francis Ferrand does. And his first lap will be a decent one, 106.2, right on the second row of the grid. And Treelor will try again. I'm not sure if that's the greatest idea, considering how he's probably worn out his tires from spinning, but, I don't know. I guess I'm not the one driving the car. Apparently, So apparently, your cousin's Jordan's is, at least according to the Discord, is Sean Snodgrass, who is a past ARC driver from several years ago, and I'm honestly surprised that he's making this unannounced appearance at this particular GP in AF1 no less, not AF2. And Kyler Boggs is about to finish his first hot lap attempt. Might be his only one based on the time frame here. And it's not much of one, it's a 1:08.7. And aren't you glad I'm here, Liam? Let's see, Van Halsem is on an in-lap. I can assume based on that split difference. Connor Suchell is not. He will be in the middle of his hot lap at the moment, so we're right on board with him. We wait for the inevitable exit of the pits for like those top 4 cars. We already have AJ Knickel on the track. He's on an awfully fast outlap. His outlap's probably faster than my hot laps. I say all that, I'm not actually that slow in this game, I'm just inconsistent. I could probably run a 1:07 and be vaguely competitive or at least start in the top 10. It's just the problem that 2 or 3 laps into the race I'd probably hit a curb and crash. So Connor Suchell's next lap results in a 1:06.6. Kyler Boggs improved to a 1:07 flat, much needed to say the least. Luke Treelor, among many others, are about to begin a lap. AJ Knickel is on his lap, so we'll ride on board with him. He's got plenty of space ahead, and he's running some low wings. Oh my. Hit like 330 Ks down that second straightaway. Only guess what he probably ran on the way into turn 1. And on his way to the line, the second half of that lap seemed awfully hooked up. To see how it stacks up to the top echelon of lap times. 1:06.3. It's actually not an improvement. Cameron Dowds and everybody else is working on a lap. You may want to get a move on. There's an angry Mercedes in your mirror, Lee. Right on board with Lee Kelly as he takes us for a lap around Interlagos. Tristan Adams has retired from the session. He's already completed his lap, I'm guessing. So into turn 1, it's a weird downhill braking zone. Do not hit any curbs on turn 2 or 3. Not because they'll spin you, but because they'll give you an invalid lap time. Up towards turn 4, it's a relatively simple braking zone. Dowds finds 7/100ths. Turn 6 here is probably the most Formula 1 corner on the game with how fast you take it. And then it's a bunch of hairpins. Early gear changes and throttle modulation will gain you a lot of time through here due to keeping the traction under you on corner exits. As you can see, he exits that corner in 4th gear. I hate this corner, it's not nearly as difficult as it used to be. And then don't touch the inside curb on the last corner, and you've made a half-decent lap of the track. Brazil is deceptively simple. I say that because it looks simple, but it's Formula 1, so you would think it isn't. Lee Kelly manages to get into the 105s, and then Liam Angelo just smokes everything else at the 105.6. Dylan Van Alzem only gains about a 10th. He doesn't really, he passes one person with that. He outqualifies Connor Hannick with that. And that's the qualifying session. Dowds. I don't really know if that was even supposed to be a lap, or if he was just, like, took the checkered flag and didn't know what to do with it. So there's your qualifying result. Interesting scenes from the game yelling at Nathan Carr for Kimi Räikkönening himself. And Charlie Congdon made no attempt to set a lap time for one reason or the other. Normally this would be a kind of an outlook if you're Lee Kelly, but at the same time, all that he really needs is, I think it was 8 points. I don't remember if it was 8 points or 8 more than Cameron. If it's 8 more than Cameron Dowds, it's going to be quite difficult. As we load into the race. Probably getting background noise from my mom walking around. That's not really her fault. That's my mic picking up any little crack in the wall. So... I don't think this PA guy knows what he's talking about. Not like you could really understand what he's saying either way, but... as we get started on the formation lap here, and I bring all of the on-screen data back on screen. Not position change. Everyone that's not in the top 10 has elected to start on mediums. Yeah, basically, hard tires only exist if you damage the car in the first, like, 8 to 10 laps. That's pretty much it. You don't want to be on them because they tend to be bad out of corners. And considering this track has quite a few of those low-speed corners, not great. So it's either soft to medium, or if you're these back 4 cars, medium to soft. At least that's the idea. Obviously, plans don't always work, especially in motorsport when when people run into each other, as Liam is attempting to break his engine. Oh, everyone. Well, he and Cameron at least are doing that. I still have that on my screen. Alright, I mean just passing through. Now, a loud door we have. Yeah, the cars are queuing up. It looks kind of weird because a lot of them are inside of each other. Okay. 5 red lights. They're not on the screen, but trust me, they're lighting up. And we are green for the Brazilian Grand Prix. Those are some short lights. Looks like the advantage obviously goes to Liam Angelo going into 1. The Alpine and the Alfa Romeo will be too wide through the Senna S's. The Alpine kind of forced off. I wouldn't be surprised if the game gave him a penalty for that. There's a Red Bull in the mix. That must be Treelor. That's attempting to find their way around the Alpine. Around the outside, though, is not likely to work. Kinnickle trying to keep Ferran in his mirrors. The two Ferraris are almost going to go too wide through turn 6. That's not really something you want to do on the first lap, but everyone's pretty much single-filed out, except for that Williams, who just sent it on Connor Suchel back here, and that was almost a disaster. Now he's too wide with the other Red Bull of Charlie Congdon, who was unable to put a lap in, or just chose not to, one or the other. Always an interesting strategy, starting in the back. It's something that kind of works sometimes, but also never does. The Ferraris are again too wide. And up ahead of that, the McLaren is battling. Never mind. I think they backed out of that. And the interval is having a seizure, so we'll just remove that. And we have invariably single-filed out. We have this little battle between Nathan Carr as he attempts to work his way back up the grid after getting DSQ'd on the qualifying session. He overtakes Sean Snodgrass, who I'm just going to assume that that's what that is, and that's not AJ being facetious. These wide shots, they make the race seem a lot more interesting than it actually is at the moment. DRS will be enabled shortly, and that should spice things up, but Nathan Carr's not waiting for it. He's going to get ahead of Charlie Congdon now. Are the intervals fixed? Yes. Kyber Boggs had some mishap happen. I could have sworn I saw position change hands here, but I guess I'm just dumb. Let's see here. Oh, this is probably worth looking at. Francis is putting AJ under a heck of a lot of pressure at the moment, but he's not really, he can't really force the issue through turn 6. Turns 1 and 4 are the main passing zones. You can make this corner work too, but only if you're really bold, and it's just hard to do. Francis is just having a bit of a struggle with these late end of lap apexes. Van Alsem just about lets Connor Hannig go ahead. AJ Kinnickle pulls ahead of the Red Bull of Luke Treelor with no issues. DRS made that about as simple as you'd like it. However, Treelor now has some DRS of his own. Sean Snodgrass has spun on the front straightaway, and I'm not exactly sure that's happened. I don't think the track's wet. He then gets a speeding penalty for his troubles. Welcome back, Sean. Clearly the game did not miss you. Fourth up to 8th, pretty much under a blanket at the moment. Any one of these 4 positions, I was gonna say, could change hands, and charger. Right as I say, right as I was going to say that, Francis Ferran went around Treelor, as I was about to say. Well, actually, before I even got a chance to say it, now he's going to go on the inside of AJ, who, despite his defensive late braking, he's outclassed. Treelor defended from Tristan Adams just about. Darn ear unplug. There we go. Now it's starting to get more spread out. This is probably the order it was supposed to be. As now the drivers are each kind of getting away from each other a little bit. I say that AJ is still catching up to Francis at a rapid pace. And keep it just about clean enough through the S's. These are not easy to run too wide through, and I can tell you from experience. AJ is granted DRS, and he will be back into 4th place. There was nothing that happened between the two behind them. And now Francis gets to continue to contend with dirty air through turn 6, which can be a problem at the best of times. And can be terminal at the worst, depending on how bad your suspension setup is. Though I imagine half of this grid's running on the same setup, so I don't really know if that's going to really be a problem. DRS re-enabled. AJ is out of ERS. That's not AJ, so Francis will have a pretty easy position made back up there. It's become less a race and more a game of hot potato between these two. AJ activates DRS himself, but with no ERS, he's also yellow on his fuel. I'm not really sure how he's going to resolve that problem. Nathan Carr about swaps hands, trying to keep himself off of Dylan Van Alzen going through 5. Van Alzen then gets a time penalty and rear ends Connor Hannock. That is probably wing damage if I had to assume. Trying a bit too hard to keep that spot, and now the Ferrari is absolutely tripping over his own proverbial shoelaces. And that's why I say I hate that corner, because you think you have the grip for it, but you just don't. McTreelor has gotten up to the back of AJ Kinnickle. Francis Ferran runs the fastest lap as soon as he has escaped the jaws of 5th, 6th, and 7th. But he's got quite a ways to travel if he's going to reach those podium runners. And in the background noise is inevitable. And my mom chooses now to go in and out of the house more times than I can even count. This is like her 5th time opening that door. And that door isn't terribly quiet either. Surprisingly, no overtakes in this section of the track yet. Or this section of the field, not track. I guess they're probably scared of each other, considering, well, what we saw earlier. Nathan Carr probably knows his car is not much good in dirty air and just probably trying to save his mediums for later. But the cars ahead of him aren't really giving him that luxury. Triller almost had a run at AJ, but found nothing. And there's also nothing here. Another DRS zone. AJ Kinnickle defended from the Red Bull up ahead, and we have a battle between Dylan and Connor. Connor just about defends from the Ferrari driver. And I think that's the yellow wing damage causing some effect on his ability to take turn 6. So Nathan Carr runs into the back of him. I do not know if that gave him wing damage, but it wouldn't surprise me if it did. I can't really tell. Luke Treelor still did not find a way around the Williams driver at the end of the last straightaway. He's got a decent run here, and he's going to have DRS, so I'd be surprised if, yeah, he's pretty much got the move done before we even cross the start-finish. Tristan Adams makes an unexpected appearance. They were 3 wide for a moment. Now Adams is going to shoot around the outside of the Red Bull. And he is forced to back off and accept his fate. Very interactive driving from the Ferrari driver to make up 2 places and 1 set of turns. And that looks like an absolute mess between these 3 drivers. Ugh, Connor Hannick has massively squeezed Dylan. No, there's a... Wow, they went 2 wide through turn 6 and I just completely missed it. This is a manic Saturday at the moment. I was going to say manic Monday, but that doesn't work. ARC has not raced on Mondays in a long time, if ever. And if you're wondering about the battle at the front, there isn't one. So we're just going to move on from that. Luke Treelor still has a distant shot at that Ferrari, but not all of the DRS in the world couldn't make up that gap for him. Francis Ferrand will make the first call to pit in for some medium tires. Connor Hannick will follow him, but he gets a speeding penalty, so that will do him in. Charlie Congdon has caught the Ferrari, and this should be pretty routine right there. Well before the braking zone, that pass has been made. So I imagine, based on the fact that Ferrand has come in, everybody else will be going in within the next 2 laps or so. Unless you're on medium tires like Nathan Carr, for example, in which case you still got a bit. You've got at least another 10 laps in you. Hunter Setchel gets a huge corner cutting penalty. I'm not really sure how that happened through here, of all places. There's no one else around him, so I can't exactly call foul play, so I don't really know what that was about. Treelor is back on the Ferrari's heels, but Tristan Adams pits in. Why am I following you? You're just in the pit lane. It's not exciting. Top 3 are basically creating an AI DRS train, but in an online race. Almost impressive in some regards. Hopefully, for the sake of the commentary being interesting, they're just saving it for the end. And they're not just gonna cruise for the rest of the race. Pit cycle's going on, the race has begun to spread out a lot. Hopefully that'll resolve itself in due time. But for the moment, not a lot to comment on. This is where I'd make a point about the championship battle, but there isn't one, and Lee Kelly is running in more than a good enough position to be the determined champion coming out of this event, if I heard them correctly earlier. And we're already seeing AJ making some fuel-saving strategies by letting off super early for turn 1. Despite this, he's still kind of keeping it relatively close to the Red Bull driver ahead. I think AJ needs a safety car, but the track is so... or the cars are so spread out on the track, but that might actually be asking for quite a lot here. Kyler Boggs may have found a die curb as he went around going through turn 3. Will any of the leaders be taking it this lap? No. About the top 5? No. Okay, now I'm starting to question Francis's judgment if he pit in that early. Because nobody else is taking him up on it like I thought they would, so I'm just puzzled now. Well, I know one thing, it's going to be within the next 3 laps. This Sean Snodgrass runs the fastest lap so far. Fresh softs are a unique high, and then a unique low as he gets a corner cutting time penalty. So now we see how that fastest lap really came to be, I think. Well, Liam Courage decides to run the gauntlet. He will now pit in from the lead. Treelore will follow suit. I don't know how he got that stopped in time. I thought that was a speeding penalty for sure. It appears that those two are currently the only ones. Liam Craig will slot in just behind Francis. That's a huge time loss. Because yeah, Francis was definitely behind Liam when he went in, and now he's a second and a half ahead of him. So Francis might be the provisional leader at the moment. Maybe that undercut had more value than I thought it did. Oh my lord. Well, that's one way to force yourself into the race. Undercut everyone by 3 laps and suddenly end up on the provisional lead of the race. At long last, Lee Kelly and Cameron Dowds pit in ahead, but we're gonna watch as Francis tries to negotiate this Ferrari. Who I believe is pitting in. Yes, he is. Liam managed to hijack DRS from that straightaway, so he will be within DRS range going down the back straightaway to try and gain a little bit more on that McLaren. Sean Snodgrass has had enough. He's had his 30 seconds of fame. He got on the live stream, and now he's out of here. So Nathan Carr will be the leader for a little bit. AJ Kinnickle is somewhat in the realm, but with his worn-out soft tires and his fuel light on, I don't really know how much of a challenge for that position he's going to be putting up at this moment in time. Lee Kelly actually came out behind Tristan Adams, and he's looking to remedy that in the near future, I'm sure. He will have the better tires, not that it matters on a straightaway, but if we ever get to a corner during this confrontation, it'll certainly make a difference. Liam Carrig unsurprisingly runs the fastest lap and gets ahead of Francis Ferrand along the way. Francis did have a good exit out of 3 though. I don't think he'll be able to convert it to... No, he is not. He isn't even on the ERS. So there was pretty much no effort from him there to be close enough. And now the race is really spread out. Cameron Dowds is sizing up the move on the McLaren driver. Both drivers have ERS activated. Liam Carrig is but a distant thought at this point for Ferrand, although that ERS usage will probably help to mitigate that problem. My nose is stuffed. I hadn't even noticed AJ Kinnickle boxed, and he is nowhere even in the realm of everybody else right now. Much swerving going towards turn 4. These are the provisional leaders, Charlie Congdon and Nathan Carr, who have yet to box and are admittedly not even that far up the road for having not pit yet. Dylan Van Alsem around as I get my consonants around. Through turn 5. Imagine you clipped an exit curb, and that can do it pretty easily on this track. There's the beep for our provisional leaders. Francis is just about staying in range, despite his not really wanting to use the ERS too much. I'm not sure if it's down to a defensive thing or if it's down to just not caring. Maybe it's like a try and pass me, I dare you type thing, or maybe he just, he doesn't want to try and pass Liam, so he's just not going to waste the effort or the battery life. Cameron Dowd just about ran him over there, as there's a speeding penalty for Dylan Van Alsem, and he has just retired the car. The provisional leaders have reached one of the other medium tire starters in the Red Bull Charlie Congdon. This will be interesting how they negotiate this. That's certainly not helped Francis any, though. As the DRS that Liam got off of this Red Bull has dragged Liam away from Francis for the most part. But then again, Cameron Dowd isn't much closer to them. Liam Angelo successfully negotiates the Red Bull driver. And that's quite an important buffer for him, because that will, obviously put that Red Bull in the way of Francis and Cameron. However, I don't know how much longer it'll be until those medium tire runners pit in for soft tires. Sean Snodgrass's AI is no longer last place. Not sure what that's worth, but here we are. Indeed, Congdon is boxing. Nathan Carr gets a speeding penalty, as does Charlie Congdon, so unmitigated disaster for those two. Cameron, that one's not the tidiest overtake I've ever seen. I was letting that go back because I think even Cameron realizes that that was just a massive squeeze. It's probably a warning too, knowing this game. Liam Carrig is beginning to run away with the event here. The only real action on the track is if this battle between Cameron Dowds and Francis Ferrand continues, as they're losing like 0.2 a corner to the leader. Ferrand got a huge run out of the final corner, but DRS is here to make sure that that doesn't really matter all too much. Cameron now puts himself on the outside, but Francis brakes very aggressively in order to keep his position. Dowds gets a better exit, and there's the DRS beep, and Dowds wants it. He's got that ERS and DRS, a sudden lane change, and that is a much cleaner maneuver, and I don't think Francis can really try and make that one back. He tried to fake a move into turn 6, but I think you'd have to be a maniac to even think about that. Turn 6 is a tap on the brakes. It's not a braking zone, and thus it's not a passing zone. Every other corner on the track is a passing zone if you're good enough, but turn 6 is just simply not. Excuse me. The RSs are in play for Francis. Does he send it? He certainly tried, but Dowd's broke just late enough to not allow that to happen. He's going to go for it again. Meanwhile, it's a battle between Nathan Carr and Luke Treloar, which probably didn't go anywhere. These two are going at it again. Cameron Dowds will just have to back out. The top speed difference is crucially big there. Both these drivers are right on the limits of their ERS capacity. And also on the limits of each other, as they're starting to make tiny bits of contact, even. AJ Kaneko with a penalty, down there in 9th place. Admittedly, he's down there with everybody else who's got a penalty, so it's not exactly of the biggest concern. Kyler Boggs caught speeding in the pit lane. Why is everyone doing that here? You have all that room to slow down. A small walk-up for Dowds as he's trying to really push that machine to its limits. Francis is absolutely doomed here. And I think he knows that. He's off the ERS. He's just going to rely on the run to 4 to make the position back, but he has not really stayed with Dowd super well through 1, 2, and 3. DRS. Francis just shoots on the outside. That's sketchy. And we continue on. These two are playing with fire. Especially considering Francis has 5 extra laps of wear on those medium tires. Why do I keep getting that confused? Anyway. This still remains the only worthwhile action on the track. I don't know how much longer it will last for, because Cameron Dowds has finally found his second wind and is beginning to drive away from the McLaren. DRS may have other things to say about that, not to mention Dowd's also pretty much out of ERS charge. Okay, yeah, no, Francis is not done yet. He's gonna get right back around him. Well before we hit the braking zone. Dowds wasn't even hitting 190 at the braking zone. That's a new low for an F1 car in this game, that's for sure. Looking more like Singapore than Brazil. Francis stays as low as humanly possible. And that time, yeah, that had to end that way. Dowds just squeezed Francis onto a curb, a bit of a front wing tap, and that will conclude matters there. In the midst of all of that, Lee Kelly was able to slowly reel his way back in toward Dowds and Francis as they were battling. I thought Francis was somehow ahead of Cameron Dowds again. No, that's the AI of Sean Snodgrass, who left like 10 laps ago. Spin for, I believe that's Connor Setchell. Through turn 5. Lee Kelly able to hijack some ERS off of, or DRS off of the ghosted McLaren driver. As Tristan Adams pits in, Francis Ferrand follows him, probably due to a damaged wing, if I had to assume. No, that was a normal tire stop. I guess they're just going for softs. It's an interesting call. And I believe that's pretty much team orders between the Red Bull drivers. Lee Kelly is beginning to fill the mirrors of Cameron Dowds ahead. Another solid lap by the Alfa Romeo driver, and he may find himself in DRS range of Cameron. This is a bit of a miscue there, however, which means it'll delay that for a moment. been a bit of a break in the action here. The two Red Bull teammates, the only drivers within DRS range of one another. I'm still not exactly sure what the decision to change tires was for some of these back-running cars. Do they just simply not think that their mediums would reach the end of the race? I don't know why they would think that. Francis, I can maybe see he would think that because he pit in a few laps early. But Adams, his tires were fine. He pit at the normal time for him, so I'm not exactly sure. I mean, I guess he's probably... I mean, he ran the fastest lap of the race. He's obviously gaining on AJ ahead of him. It's just a matter of that. I don't think it's enough. Boggs and Hannick net themselves further time penalties. Connor Setchell will challenge that fastest lap run. However, he's not even in the top 10 at the moment, so he will not gain much from him. He's not even driving the car. Or is he just ghosted? No, he's just ghosted because Nathan is behind him. Never mind. And now Francis Ferrand runs the fastest lap, and he actually gets to make use of it because he is running in the top 10. And now AJ has probably soiled his fire suit because Tristan Adams has arrived. Okay, AJ just backs out of that. That's a dead-end road right there. You're trying to go too wide through turn 6. Somebody's ending up with a damaged car. Somebody's ending up with a penalty. There's, I don't see any other outcome to that, so... wise of AJ to just not challenge that. Especially not whilst he tries to maintain his fuel limit. You can't put it in lean like you could in previous games due to the removal of the fuel mixture. So, he just has to try and save fuel. He never got that safety car he was looking for, and now it's probably too late for one. Lee Kelly has still not managed to rope in Dowds anymore. I mean, their tires are the same age, just the matter that... I don't know. I don't know why, it just isn't happening. And... like, the gap between the top 3, top 4 even, the gaps aren't that big between them. But they're just so evenly matched that the gaps aren't changing. It's safe to say that Liam Angelo Carrig has definitely won this race. He's got all that ERS built up, whereas all of the people following him don't really have that available. Oh, that's not it. So, right now, none of those positions actually change hands between 4th and 5th. However, right now, Tristan Adams is technically ahead, as Nathan Carr just loops it out of whatever corner number this might be, and that will actually change things because that's him deposited down to P7. possibly 8. Oh yeah, 8. His tires are incredibly warm now, probably like not very good health. Meanwhile, Francis Ferrand has caught AJ Knickel for P7 now, this is. Tristan Adams will be in a net P5. AJ does not put up any fight. He probably can't because due to his fuel. So Francis will just cruise on ahead and carry on with his day. Nathan Carr has just exited the pit lane. A 10th, maybe 9th place run for him. And that would only be because Connor Hannock has a multitude of time penalties. AJ Knickel has found some grass outside turn 3. Reactive driving manages to keep himself off a barrier, but that was still probably a heart rate jumper. Walk-up from Tristan Adams. He obviously wants to get this move done on track, as he is catching right up to the back of that Red Bull, and I don't think that this battle is going to last too long. The only thing that might extend this confrontation is the fact that Adams does not have a lot of ERS available. He's gonna just send it in there anyway, and Luke Treloar just about spins him out the same way that Francis got spun earlier in the GP. Another beep of DRS. Now Adams forced onto the outside curbs after being forced onto the inside curbs in turn 1. And he will just have to wait. Suddenly, if I'm Tristan Adams, I'm just wondering to myself, is it even worth trying to pass this guy? Because he'd be ahead of him with penalties anyway. And it's not like previous games, you know, now he knows that because the game actually has an overlay for penalties that is displayed to the drivers. So Adams must know just as well as I do that Luke Treloar has these penalties. Regardless, he's going to try again. As this continues to happen, Francis Ferrand slowly creeps up on the pair of them. Although he'd already be finishing ahead of Treloar anyway, but Adams manages to finish that move just about in time before the McLaren driver arrives. So I would hardly hesitate to say that the finishing order is pretty much set, minus any kind of spins that might happen at the end of the race here. We may have one last gasp of racing action as Francis has gotten to the back of the Treelor, but Treelor breaks defensively and therefore Francis is unable to do much with it. Such, what the heck did you do? He run out of gas? I don't know. But what I do know is that Liam Craig has led pretty much from flag to flag, and he shall win the Brazilian Grand Prix. And with Lee Kelly finishing on the podium, if I heard the championship thing correctly, he might be the official champion now. As Adams manages to successfully destroy his car at the end of the race. I do believe Nathan Carr will be P9 after penalties. Maybe not. Nathan Carr's AI had just wrecked the car trying to avoid Adams. Not sure how that happened. Charlie Congdon, despite the penalties, has earned driver of the day. Yes, we get it. You have a phone. What? Yeah, it would be kind of hard to argue that Charlie Congdon gets the driver of the day, seeing as he went from 14th on the grid to finish. You know, he went from 13th on the grid to finish another way around. Admittedly, other than that, most people's positions really didn't change all that much. So that is going to do it for today's broadcast of the ARC Formula 1 Championship. There's a bit of a miscue. We expected the other tracks like Portugal and Imola to be included in the game by now, but Codemasters never makes deadlines, so I believe the next race, assuming Portimao isn't added in the next like 2 or 3 days, the next race may be a Styrian Grand Prix, so that'll be returning to Austria. Wherever it may be. I will hopefully see you there.